It's 11:59 at Gun Owners Radio, and this is the Penn Patriot, music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I've got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, and another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind American lines, this is your song. We're here at the 2026 Great American Outdoor Show, and I'm talking with Doug Hamlin, the Executive Vice President and CEO of the NRA. Doug, how you doing today?
Doing great, John.
So one of the things that we're wanting to talk about is the Friends of the NRA programs, and a lot of people are really nervous about Friends of the NRA dinners. Doug, what can you tell us about the state of the Friends of the NRA?
Yeah, I'm glad to talk about that, John. As you know, we had to make some adjustments to the program, but when you distill it all down, nothing's changed. So the Friends of NRA dinner programs around the national on the national scene will continue. Go to NRA.org to find out how you can participate in a local dinner in your area. We have our field reps that will be coordinating those activities with the volunteer committees. These are all great Americans that host these dinners, and the funds raised. Half the dollars will go back to the states where those funds are raised, and the other half will go to the National Rifle Association to fund our programs, like law enforcement, like Eddie Eagle, like Refuse to Be a Victim, all of the foundational programs, competitive shooting, that people have come to know the NRA to be the best in class, best in the world.
So now those funds are going into some new foundations, right? So that's all into... What are those organizations now, the subset of the NRA? Those are C3s, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
So when you go to an event, you're not going to see any difference. The dollars will be deposited in another 501c3. We have the Patriot Fund and we have the Freedom Action Foundation. So as far as you as an individual participant, nothing has changed. Come, support NRA, support our programs. There will be auctions, there will be raffles, there will be dinners. So the conduct of the events themselves, nothing's changed. We've had to make some adjustments with regard to the accounting, but in terms of the distribution of the dollars, they'll go to the places we want them to go. And they have always been going.
Perfect. And as far as like prize packages, I know there's different members that are worried about supplying the dinners with prize packages. I know there's some controversy about that. Have you guys been able to secure some of those prize packages, and you've guys got donors coming in to the New Friends program?
Yes.
Okay.
So we're in the middle of our 2026 dinner season, right? And this change really took effect February 1st. And the dinner packages, the prize packages, have been warehoused properly, and they're being shipped and distributed to those individual dinner locations. And so there should be no controversy about that.
Okay, perfect. Doug, any other message that you have for people that are watching and listening in?
Well, we're here in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania at the Great American Outdoor Show. We're expecting 260,000 people here over the next 9 days. I just walked the firearms hall, and it's packed. I mean, you can see behind me the movement of all the people, but it's men, women, children, grandparents, people pushing strollers. I mean, this is a real celebration of our Second Amendment rights and our outdoor heritage, and culturally, our country is so different, and we're so strong because of this freedom that we get to enjoy. Pennsylvania is a fantastic state, one of our top states for NRA members, and we're just so glad to be here. And this is our 12th year as the promoters, as the producers of the show.
Doug, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you, John.
So there you go. There's our buddy John Petrolino interviewing Doug Hamlin, who's the new leader of the NRA. He's been a couple years now. What's his official title? Executive president.
Executive
something.
Vice President.
Executive Vice President.
I believe, correct.
He replaced Wayne LaPierre. And,
I think he's also the CEO. I
Yeah,
think
but
it's
I
two
believe he's
titles.
both,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think he's got two fancy
Yeah.
titles.
When I was reading about him, they primarily talked about the vice president role. However, on occasion they would mention the CEO. So I believe it's both.
there you go.
Yep.
And Jon is somebody we've been talking about this story. He basically they're updating us on the difference between the program is the Friends of the NRA, and they were talking about the difference between the foundation, which is the charity, and then of course NRA proper, which is the main organization that people are aware of. And Jon's been talking a lot about this, so he got Doug to address it directly. And I think the takeaway here is if you are somebody that goes to the Friends of the NRA dinners, the fundraisers for Boy Scout troops and all kinds of other programs, still go. You're good to go. The money's getting routed in the right place. That's the takeaway, right? Is that the takeaway?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you guys heard?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a lot of kind of controversy about it because there was like some misinformation online and, oh, it's not really going to support the NRA. It's just because people realized that like the name of the, 501c3 the money was going to was different than what they were used to. But that was just some sort of like internal NRA financial thing where
It's a legal thing they had to do.
Exactly. They just had to change the, I guess, location of where the money was going, but it's still going to all of the programs that we go to Friends of the NRA dinners to support. So.
Yeah, so keep going. If you haven't gone before, go. They're all very, very cool.
Next one, San Diego, is May 16th, by the way.
May 16th?
May
Where's
16th.
it at? Up in...
And the Elks in El Cajon.
Okay, cool.
Oh, it's actually San Diego. There's one coming up maybe sooner than that in Fallbrook, I believe. I've been up
Debbie's
to
there?
Yeah, Debbie's up there, yeah.
Do we know the date on that one?
I'll
See if
find
you
it
can
right now.
While you Google that, Jon Petrolino on Bearing Arms wrote an article that I want you guys to all read called "The National Rifle Association Claps at NRA Foundation with Scathing Allegations." Oh, the drama. Petrolino's the best writer. I just love that guy.
All the tea.
And then the first line, I love this. In what can be described as a lover's quarrel and misappropriation of emotions due to sour grapes from a set of aggrieved former directors. My God, that's like poetry. This
I know.
guy.
He's a great writer.
The NRA and their sister 501c3 organization, NRA Foundation, are embattled in a nasty lawsuit. It goes on to say that they haven't really. It's been quiet from the Friends of the NRA side, or I'm sorry, the Foundation side. But as far as the reaction to the lawsuit, but there is some meat in this article that I wanted to go over. The funding slashes that the NRA alleges the Foundation has made are as follows: NRA competitive shooting, 53% decrease in funding. Law enforcement training and competition, 55% decrease. Education and training programs, 34% decrease. Youth programs, 30% decrease. Hunting programs, 36% decrease. Range services, 59% decrease. And then NRA museums, 16% decrease. That's significant. That's big. And again, that's money that was raised to do those things. And for them to prevent it from flowing to where it's supposed to go is, it's not good.
But is that sorted now? That's solved?
Well, there's still good question. So my understanding is the foundation, there's money sitting over there that needs to be routed.
Yes.
But
a lot of money. Like
a lot of money.
Like almost $200 million or something. It was a crazy amount of money.
But all future money won't be subject to the people that are
trying to slash it.
blocking.
I
Yeah.
see. Okay.
So future money, good to go. But this $200,000 or $200 million that's sitting there, they still got to figure that out.
Seems like we're, still go. Everything's fine. Maybe there's some drama in the background. Let them figure that out. And the one up north is on March 14th. It's a Saturday at 4:30 p.m. And that is in Fallbrook at the Paula Mesa Resort. I've been to some of the Fallbrook events. They're really fun. Nice group of folks, and I have won a gun. So Fallbrook might be my lucky location. I have never won a gun at a San Diego one.
What'd you win? What
I won a revolver, a 22. I don't even know the brand off the top of my head. Like farmers or fathers or brothers or something. It's like I'll find it. It looks like a little Rough Rider.
That's cool.
22, and it's got 2 different cylinders, so you can shoot 22 long rifle or regular. So
Interesting. So if the Fallbrook on the 14th of March doesn't work, or the one in May up here in San Diego doesn't work, we also Riverside on April 4th at the Riverside Elks Lodge. We have Southern Sierra area, Kerr-McGee Community Center on April 11th, and Yucaipa on April 18th. There's a number of opportunities.
Where's that website?
This is friends of NRA.org, and you just go to events, put in your zip code, and it shows you everything in your local area within a certain range of miles.
All right. Speaking of events, how is your event shaping up, Dakota?
good. Sorry, it's not brothers or fathers. It's Heritage Rough Rider.
Oh, a Heritage Rough Rider.
But
that's a cool gun.
Heritage, family, brothers, fathers. I feel like it kind of makes sense.
Yeah. Stream of consciousness.
Yes. It just comes out wrong sometimes. How's my event? It is shaping up. We've got the USPSA side of the event is getting closer to being full. There's still some space. I want to say we still got like 13 spots maybe on the USPSA side. So if you're interested in shooting the match on March 1st, now's as good a time as any to sign up. But I also wanted to kind of address, I think there's been a little bit of confusion about the other side of the event. So we have this like competitive shooting side. If you're not a competitive shooter or you're like, hey, I just want to show up and have fun, there's lots of things for you too. So this is not just a competition. The range day side, we're kind of treating like a fair. So you'll show up, you'll buy little, voucher ticket things, and then you'll just take your ticket to whatever experience you want to do. So like maybe you're going to buy 10 tickets and then you're going to walk around, see what there is to do. And then, maybe you'll spend 1 ticket to learn how to use pepper spray, or you'll spend 2 tickets to buy a couple tacos, or you'll, spend a couple tickets and get to shoot a revolver. Actually, my 22 revolver is going to be in the little kids lane. So we'll have a family friendly option for the kiddos under the direction of an instructor. They'll learn how to load the revolver and they'll get to shoot 2 cylinders worth of ammo out of it. So we've got lots of fun little stuff going on that is a separate thing from the competition side. So still come out even if you're not interested in competing. Feel free to bring your own gun, because there will be some stages or some little, areas where you could shoot pistol. You could work with an instructor to help you zero in your optic. You could, compete against your friend or your loved one in a plate rack competition, just like between you two. So there will be lots of opportunities for you to shoot if that's what you want to do. But really all you have to bring is eye and ear pro. We will have some extras, but we just don't want to be providing eyes and ears for everybody that shows up. So if you have eyes and ears, bring them yourself. But otherwise, you can just show up and have a good time. If you want to bring your gun, bring ammo that works in it. Otherwise, we'll have guns out and about. We're going to do a shotgun thing too. So you'll have a 2 different 12 gauge shotguns, a semi and a pump, and you can spend a ticket and learn how to shoot the shotgun. So it's a family friendly. You don't have to know much. Intro is totally fine. If you've never really shot, that's fine. You can still come and hang out. You just probably don't want to participate in the competition side of the event. So
cool. I think we sent an email out. Did we send an email out, Rich? Not yet? Okay, so we're going to send an email out. Actually, by the time you see this, we'll probably send an email out with how to sign up, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we have kind of a general RSVP link. So if you go to gunownersradio.com, yes, sorry, .org.com, gunownersradio.com/LGRGC-benefit. That's going to send you to this webpage that you see here. And then that first step is to just let us know you're coming, because we want to have an estimated head count so we can get enough food and water and all of that good stuff. So that step 1 is just fill out that registration form. You don't have to promise what you're going to do. You can say, hey, I just want to come hang out. That's totally fine. We just want a general head count. But if you do want to shoot one of the matches, you do have to sign up for those on Practice Score, which is that second link. So 2 different registration forms if you're going to compete. 1 registration form if you're just going to come and hang out and do the experiences. We've got a couple of guns that are going to be up on the silent auction table. I think right now we're up to 2 handguns that'll be on that silent auction table for sure. And we're working on maybe getting something else. So it'll be a really fun event. Lots of good prizes.
Awesome. Okay. last thing is I wanted to talk real quick. I had a couple of conversations. Just wanted to relay a little quick San Diego CCW update. Number one is the appointments are actually basically from if you provide all the information that you're supposed to provide, from application to issuance is in most cases under 6 months in San Diego for your CCW these days, which is awesome. One tip that I've heard again and again, and I wanted to make sure that we talk about, is if you call them on Mondays and say, hey, were there any cancellations? You know, if you're waiting for your appointment, if you call them on Mondays, that they can possibly come fit you in. In fact, I've heard a guy got his appointment on like a Wednesday, and then Monday morning called and they said, yeah, sure, come on in. So he didn't even have to wait a full week for his
Appointment.
Application to appointment, yeah.
which is awesome. And a reminder, you don't have to have a gun to apply. I keep hearing that from people that, you know, hey, I haven't purchased the gun that I want to carry, or I left all my guns in the state I moved from, something like that. You don't have to have a gun to apply. You don't
Just
need your
put
gun.
NA through that portion of the application. It requires something.
Yeah, and you don't need your gun until you actually take your class.
Right.
Yeah, the only reason you need the gun is to prove to the instructor you take the CCW class from that you can pass the qualification. And that gun has to be a gun that is registered to you. The serial number has to match the serial number that's going on your CCW permit. But you've got 90 days of waiting for that background check, and then another 90 days before you're expired from that process. And the sheriff's department will work with you if you can't get it done in 6 months. But there's a lot of time in between you hitting that submit button on the application and you needing to have your firearm in hand.
So put in your application first, then go gun shopping. Don't get your gun because we're wasting all that time.
Don't hold off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you want to get
If
into
that's
the
holding
queue.
you back, don't let it be. It's an opportunity for them just to pre-screen your registrations. I know a lot of people, there's been issues with their registration. That's really what I think they're asking for, is so they can pre-screen. But if you don't put anything, they'll still pass you through.
Yeah, that's a great point, is that sometimes folks don't realize that the firearm they're planning to qualify with isn't registered to them.
Right.
Whether it be like, you know, maybe you inherited it or you moved from another state and you never filed the paperwork with California. And so then you do your qualification with your instructor and they give you the paperwork, and then the sheriff's department says, this gun's not yours. You can't have it on your permit. So make sure that you have done the paperwork. If you move from out of state, there's easy paperwork. It's not complicated. You can do it all online through CFARS, through the Department of Justice. And that's going to be the way to make sure that that gun is actually registered to you. If you don't know, you can always ask for a list of the firearms that are registered to your name.
There you go. Okay, on the show today, we have Gary Gibson. He's an attorney. As you know, he's a friend of the show. He's going to talk about a lawsuit. It looks like it's a class action lawsuit against Glock. And you may have already received a notice on that.
I think pretty much all of us have gotten a postcard.
You're going to get to hear from Amanda Suffecool, who she is running for the NRA board re-election. She's an amazing lady. And then I have an interesting interview with a guy who was at January 6th. I hope you enjoy. I think it'll be very interesting. So sit back, relax, have fun, and here we go. Gun Owners Radio. Thanks for stopping by, San Diego.
When your rights are on the line and the fight gets real, you need a lawyer who knows the deal. From gun laws to courtrooms, he'll stand by you. John Dillon fights for the red, white, and blue. John Dillon defending your rights, keeping bare arms with truth and might. From GVROs to self-defense calls, Dillon Law Group, he fights for us all. When freedom's under fire, who you gonna call? Dillon Law Group, justice for all. DillonLawGP.com.
Okay, so if you own a Glock, there is a real chance that you've received notification that you are possibly a part of a class action lawsuit against Glock. And if it's definitely generated a lot of interest, and people are asking me questions like, hey, should I opt out of this thing? What is this all about? What does it mean? So I decided to bring on a friend of the show, attorney extraordinaire, Gary Gibson, to walk us through this and help us out. Gary, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Michael. Thanks for having me on.
So it looks like Glock is getting sued. And it looks like if you have purchased a Glock, you may be a part of this lawsuit. What are your? Why don't you walk us through what's the history of this? What's going on, and then ultimately we want to get to what does this mean for us?
Sure. Back in 2020, Mr. Johnson, who was an Oakland police officer, former Oakland police officer, decided to sue Glock because 4 years earlier he had read a magazine article by some lawyers that there were some problems with Glocks. Well, what were the problems that he thinks Glock has? It's called an unsupported chamber defect. In the pleadings, it reads as UCD, unsupported chamber defect. What does that mean? It means that the cartridge, when it fits into the chamber in a Glock, at the 6 o'clock position is not fully supported. That means that the cartridge is not all the way in and totally surrounded by a barrel or a chamber. So that if there's a weakness in the wall of the brass or the steel or whatever's there, but primarily brass, then that theoretically could cause a Glock bulge. I think they made that up, or a brass bulge at the 6 o'clock position of your cartridge. And in the worst case scenario, boom, complete failure. Glock's response was, that isn't a failure or a design defect, that's intentional. We planned that. We planned for there to be space there so that if there was a brass failure of the cartridges, that the pressure would be diverted down away from the shooter. So that's 2020. Jump forward to 2024. The plaintiffs managed to convince the judge that this is a class action. Class action just means that there's a huge number of people that this will affect in a similar way. And so we're going to put all those people together as opposed to forcing every one of those people to go to court. And so the class got certified in 2024, and it took a year and a half to get you these cards. So what they're advising you is a judge has certified a class for this lawsuit. You are a member of the class, and here's the postcard. There's the front. There's the back. What's funny, Michael, is I got my card the day after we talked about me coming on to talk about it. So I think everybody's getting them right now. If you do nothing, you're a member of the class. If you want out of the class, and there's only really two reasons that you should want out of the class. One is you plan on suing Glock yourself and don't want to be controlled by this lawsuit. Very small group of people. Or number two, you have a moral objection to the fact you've been included in a lawsuit against a gun manufacturer that you like and you don't want to be a part of it. What's the resolution to this? Sometime in the future, one of two things is going to happen. Glock is going to go to trial and fight the lawsuit. And then if there's a money recovery at the end of that and you're part of the class, you'll get a portion of the money recovery after the blood-sucking lawyers strip their millions of dollars from that pool. Or number two, Glock will settle and you'll get a portion of that recovery divided by how many people are in the class after the blood-sucking lawyers suck their millions of dollars out of the pool. Class actions have started as generally a good thing, holding corporations responsible for events or acts that affect large groups of people. But they've really devolved into looking for some ways to nickel and dime corporations, but nickel and dime them for millions and millions of consumers. This is a consumer lawsuit saying that my Glock is worth less than I bought it for because of this defect. That's the whole point of this lawsuit. Nobody's saying it blew up in their face. In fact, I can't see, I don't know anybody, I've never heard of it, and I've never read anything where a Glock's blown up in somebody's face. Perhaps they could get together with SIG. They could come up with a P320 that explodes, before you even touch it. But I don't know. The point of this lawsuit to me seems to be, how do I get some money? certainly from a lawyer's perspective, and the class plaintiff gets a little bit more than everybody in the class. So that's where you're at. If you got the card and you do nothing, you're in the class. If you want out, go on their website and opt out, and then you can choose to not participate or sue them on your own.
Okay, so there's a lot of questions. First question is, how did they know where to send the cards?
I don't know, and the only thing I can come up with is the DOJ gave it to them.
And is there a legal
How
issue with
else
that?
would they know who owns it? They
Right.
know who owns it through
Right.
CFARs.
Well,
So the
but
state
it's not
knows
just
exactly
California,
who owns the
right?
blocks.
Is it
Yeah,
national?
California.
It's just California.
Just California.
How interesting. I didn't realize it was just
I'm
just
almost
Glock owners
positive.
in California.
I'm almost positive it's Cal DOJ. I don't know any other way they could have figured it out.
Well, that's pretty fascinating in and of itself.
It's a little concerning.
Okay.
Now, is it owned in California or purchased in? And you may not know, Gary, but those purchased in California or just those present in California?
I think purchased in California because it involves how much it's been diminished. If you didn't purchase it here, then it wouldn't have been diminished as part of this lawsuit. I don't think so.
Okay.
What about if you purchased a used Glock, would you still be a part of this lawsuit?
Yeah, you'd have to dress it.
Or is it
Yeah, I
just
think so,
original?
I think
because you
so.
purchased
Yeah.
it for a price and it's worth less.
It says you are a class member if you are an individual consumer who purchased in the state of California a pistol identified above, and it's basically Glocks with all of these calibers: 10 mil, 49,
Yep.
45,
Yeah, everything.
380, 357.
It's interesting because I didn't receive a postcard, but I haven't actually purchased a Glock in 30 years. So I don't know.
Did you purchase that Glock 30 years ago?
Here's
in
the thing with this.
California?
Here's the thing with this card. Everybody who got one of those cards, now the postman knows who owns Glocks, or somebody, whoever has access to your mail knows you own a Glock.
Yeah. Well, our household owns multiple Glocks, but only one of the adults who have Glocks registered in their name at that house got a postcard. So that was also interesting. I was like, did they just choose one instead of sending two to the same address? Because we both
You know,
have Glocks registered.
I
to
read
us.
this story online, and it's kind of sad and miserable at the same time. A guy got a card at his house, and the guy was a father. And his son had killed himself with a Glock 5 years before. And the dad was reminded of it because that postcard came in the mail and talked about his Glock. And so just there's just a seedy aspect to this part of it, you know, and that's just part of the example of it. I'm disappointed that they managed to get the fact that I owned a Glock out of Cal DOJ. I have no confidence in Cal DOJ anyway. I think the whole point of what Cal DOJ does with regard to firearms is in order to dissuade people to either purchase or personally carry firearms. That's the point of all the regulation and the confusion and the fact that no one except lawyers, and not even lawyers sometimes, can know how to follow the law. And I think that Cal DOJ will do anything that makes pain the point with regard to gun owners.
Did you live in that house when you purchased your Glock?
I did not.
So then that's the only way they could have gotten it.
Correct.
How else would they have gotten your new address? It had to have gone through California DOJ.
Yep.
That's interesting. Okay, so let me just kind of recap my understanding from what you're just saying and what I've read. Whether or not you participate, I think there's this feeling from people who are asking, like, hey, what should I do? If they don't participate, that would somehow help Glock. That doesn't sound like that's the case. It sounds like Glock's going to go to court no matter how many people are in the class action. Glock is either going to win or lose, and it doesn't matter the amount, whether or not you participate. So in other words, if they have one person in the class action lawsuit or they have 1 million people in the class action lawsuit, they're going to either win or lose the same amount of money. So
Correct.
opting out isn't helping Glock in any way.
Now,
The number
opting out
per-
will not help Glock in any way. It'll raise the payout to the members of the class.
So if there are 100 people, so let me just break this down. If there are 100 people in this lawsuit and then Glock loses and the settlement's $100 million, it's $100 million whether there's 100 people, whether there's 1,000 people, whether there's 10,000 people. It's still going to be $100 million. It's not like, well, if there's one person, it'll be $1 million. If there's 10 people, it'll be 10 million.
No,
They're
that should not influence the amount of the recovery. The recovery should be fixed based on the conduct of Glock, not how many people are in the class.
Okay, so the people who, it doesn't sound like there's any way to help Glock here. If you're a fan of Glock, and other than like you said, hey, I don't want to, morally, I just don't want to be a part of this. But you're not helping or Glock by leaving the lawsuit. You're not hurting Glock by being in the lawsuit.
No, you're just along for the ride. I mean, I object to being part of a class because I didn't choose it. You chose me and are requiring me to go online to opt out of it, not opt into it. But that's the way that this class action is being done. You have to opt out. If you don't opt out, you're going to get something. And when I say you're going to get something, if you get more than $20 out of this, I'll be surprised. The individual lawyers are going to get millions. There's 8 individual lawyers as part of this case. They've been on the case 5 years, billing for this all the time at probably $750, $1,000 an hour, and billing as hard as they can. So they're going to walk away with millions each, and you'll wind up with your $20 to fix your broken Glock, even if that's true.
I always thought there was strength in numbers for class actions. Like, I always thought the more people in the class action, the more it feels to, the court that this is a real issue. But you're saying that the number of people opted in have almost nothing to do with it.
Correct, as long as they can certify a class, and the class has been certified. Now,
Interesting.
and if everybody drops out except the lead plaintiff, you still have I don't even know if everybody drops out except the lead plaintiff and a few people, you'd still have a class. Because I know you've gotten the same thing. You've gotten checks in the mail for crap you didn't even know about for 39 cents, and that just goes in the trash. Well, that's your recovery from the class. For AT&T lawsuit, I think I got one for that, or Apple, I got one for that for like $1 something. You don't even know you're in the class, and you wind up with a $1 check. Well, I guarantee you the lawyers that had that case made a few million off it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a TurboTax one a few years back. I got like $4. I cashed that check. I was like, $4, buy a coffee.
So do you think this is a greedy lawyer thing, or do you think this is an anti-gun, let's go after Glock thing?
I don't know anything about Mr. Johnson. I mean, he's a former Oakland police officer, but I definitely think there is a component to let's get some money out of Glock. And there might be a component to let's get Glock to fix something we really think is wrong. But Glock's saying it ain't wrong. We're not fixing it. We designed it this way. Oh, and by the way, the only way that it goes boom, there's only 2 ways it goes boom.
Yeah.
You have a defective cartridge or a 200% loaded cartridge. So
Which
if you
either
put a
way
grenade in your Glock, it might explode. Oh,
Yeah.
well, there's a surprise.
Either way, that's an ammo problem. Whether it's got too much powder or the casing itself is defective, that is a problem with the ammunition.
I will tell you,
That is Glock's defense. Glock's defense is this has nothing to do with our guns. This has everything to do with the ammo that's put in our guns.
Yes.
And I agree. And I'll tell you, I've worked with people who have had a blowout on their Glock.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen this. I've seen the rear portion of that casing separate. I've seen, and I've seen what occurs in the instances I've had this occur. It was bad ammo. It was old ammo. It was just off-brand ammo. And the extractors often would push out. No other damage to the barrel, no damage to the shooter, no damage to any other component. Generally, the extractor had to be replaced, is all that I've seen. And I would say that if this is what I believe I've experienced is what I believe they're describing, I think it, considering what could have happened, and I've seen in other firearms, I think this worked as designed according to what Glock is stating, and I agree that it is a benefit, not a take back from the gun.
They may want to take it to trial. They may just, sooner or later, you got to fight. You can't just be rolled over by people that want your money. I hope Glock fights this because I think it is a well-designed pistol. I think that the argument, it does not involve Glock, and they've done the best they can in order to solve the problem of bad ammo.
Correct.
Good. All right. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Any parting advice you want to give people, Gary?
Boom. I'm out of here.
Okay, cool. Yeah, again, this isn't like, what was it, the Gremlin that had wasn't it a Gremlin car back in the 70s? It had
the Pinto, the exploding
the Pinto,
gas
that's
tank?
what it was.
The
The
Pinto.
Pinto had a bumper full of gasoline.
Yeah.
This isn't that. This isn't like something that is obviously or inherently wrong with the design. They're going, hey, no, this is how it's supposed to work. Don't use defective ammo, and everything will go smooth. So,
That's it.
all right, cool, Gary. Thanks for shining a light on that. And it sounds like, if you were to ask me if I ever end up getting one of these postcards, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to opt out. I'm just going to let it ride and hope for the best for Glock.
I would hope so, and I would.
Wait.
I
Hold
would-
on, Gary. Before you, I just got a from Dakota in a
That came out loud.
in a very judgmental tone. So now what did I what's going on over there, Dakota? What is Dakota going to do?
Oh my gosh.
I just got
that is so funny.
judged out loud.
No. I wasn't trying to judge. Sorry. No judgment here. A couple things. I think I am going to opt out. I'm morally against like the concept of this suit, and so I just don't want my name associated. But I don't think it's bad to stay opted in. I was reading the straight lies in the class action like paperwork. So this is an order on motion for class certification filed in September 2024. They say that Glock does not advertise or disclose the existence of the unsupported chamber, although Glock contends it trains Glock armorers on its existence. The armorer courses, however, are restricted to law enforcement, military officers, private security personnel, and Glock dealers. That is not true. I'm literally going there next week to become a Glock armorer, and I am not a part of any of those classes. So just the fact that the paperwork itself has lies, like that's the second thing I've seen where I'm like, I don't think that's true, but this one I know for sure isn't true because I'm going literally on Monday.
Yeah, I did my Glock armor course a few years back, and there was a number of other people in that same course, not part. Now, they do have LEO specific.
Yes.
They do have courses that are specific to those people, but it's
But
not.
you can become a Glock armorer as a civilian, as a normal person who likes guns and is willing to pay Glock some money.
If you want to support Glock on this, and even if you opt out, email them at their corporate headquarters and say, fight this, take this to trial, make them lose, make them eat their fees, make paper train them that you can't do this. You work for 5 years, you're going to get nothing because we're going to court. You're not going to bully us into a settlement. Call them, email them, write them, tell them to fight it. That's how you support them.
Good. That's excellent. Thank you, Gary. Appreciate the insight and the information. Thank you.
See ya.
There you go, Gary Gibson.
So when you're using it on your firearms, because it takes about 3 cleanings. So I like to say it's a clean shoot, clean shoot, clean shoot process, much like seasoning a cast iron skillet. So you're going to field strip your firearm, break it down, and then you're going to put our product on piece by piece by piece, covering the entire firearm. Then you're going to take the barrel, you're going to clean the barrel inside of that, and then you come back and you wipe it all off, and you're done. It's that easy. Remember, seal one and done.
All right, welcome to the show, Amanda Suffecool. We are so excited to have you. Amanda has served on the NRA board, and she is a fierce advocate for Second Amendment rights, and she's been involved in lots of different things. Amanda, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, put me on the spot. Well, let's see. I'm a retired engineer, retired out of the aerospace industry. So I'm a problem solver. Now I have time, so I get to spend all of my time fighting for the Second Amendment. And so I'm active in like a Girl and a Gun Legacy Foundation, Women for Gun Rights, the NRA, and the NRA Board of Directors. So it's a good place to be, and I'm duking it out with the people who are trying to take away our rights.
I love that. We definitely need folks like you on our side. So we appreciate the effort you put in. Talk a little bit. I know you've got a show as well, right?
Yeah, I'm the only female that is nationally syndicated that does Second Amendment work in the nation. So my show, Eye on the Target Radio, is on Salem Radio Network, and it's every Sunday night from 5 to 7 Eastern time. And so it makes me, some people say it makes me a novelty, and I'm like, well, there's a skill set that got behind the novelty portion of it, right? Because you can't get there if you can't do it.
I always thought that was such a cool fact. Thanks for introducing yourself. We're excited to talk about the NRA today. Really, that's a big part of this interview. So
Okay.
It is, and you're running for board. You've been on the board, and I think that you single-handedly, honestly, Amanda, were the one who gave me hope and convinced me that the NRA truly has a future. And full stop. I don't think that can be understated. I think that
you and I did have a conversation, and you were like, "Yeah, no, and I was like, "No, wait, let me, give me just a little window in here," and you listened, which is kudos to you, because so many people have decided that they're done and they stop listening.
Well, it's important. Having an NRA is important. The place that they. I have such mixed feelings too, because a lot of when the NRA had to step aside, because they were under investigation and there were some bad things happening. Some really cool things happened because the NRA had to step aside. I think that the FPC stepping up and doing a lot of things that they did is a very good thing. I think that Second Amendment Foundation kind of got reinvigorated. I think a lot of organizations, it gave us some breathing room, and we were able to grow and do some things that we wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. But I also think that having a strong NRA and they're doing the things they're supposed to be doing is also a very, very good thing. So I think everybody made the best of a bad situation. That's great, but in the future, starting right now, we need to have a strong and effective NRA.
Well, I think to tie into one of the things that you just said is that in today's world, in the Second Amendment world, what you hadn't seen before and you see now is that the NRA, Firearms Policy Coalition, Second Amendment Foundation, Gun Owners of America, those groups are all now working together, and they're putting together their legal strategy. They're putting together, so they're co-authoring, writing amicus briefs for each other, press conferences and press releases that come out that say all four of us are in alignment. So they're no longer taking pot shots at each other. They're back to everybody focused. That is the direction we're all going. And so that's been a good move.
It is a good move. And you are a part of that. You have been a part of making sure that happens. How long have you been on the board now?
One term, so 3 years. So people said to me when I first ran, and they're like, the NRA's in a mess. Why now? Why do you want on now? And I'm like, well, God gives us skills, and they give us experience, and they give us things, and they put us in a place. And I kind of believe that all of my problem solving skills, all of my Second Amendment work, all of that stuff culminated in a time when here's an organization that could benefit from those skill sets all together in one cohesive package. And so it was like, God puts you in a place at a time for a reason. And I kind of think that this is part of my reason.
I think that makes a ton of sense. And your involvement came at a time where there was so much distrust. There was such a huge lack of trust in what the board was doing and who was, in elected positions. And I think you have done so much to kind of get this NRA 2.0 elected and now up for re-election.
Right. And putting it out there, I'm going to say that one of the things I've been an NRA member, and I was a dues paying member, and then I'd be off, and then I'd be back on, and I'd be off until about 2004. And then I became a life member right about then. But I probably missed maybe 3 annual meetings since the 80s. So I have consistently been there. And I can tell you in that time, I don't know that I knew any board members. So going to the annual meetings, walking around, talking to people, doing stuff, I never met any board members. And so one of the things that I've taken it as a personal thing is when I go out to anything that is NRA related, I'm wearing my name badge. I'm making myself available, and I'm trying to, it's a hard walk to not be like, oh, here's my name badge. Look at me. Look how important I am. But I want it to be, here's my name badge. You can identify me. Feel free to come and talk to me. And so trying to open that door so that when people ask questions, I can be like, I don't have the answer for this, or I don't have the answer for that. I can get it, or I can tell you what the thought process is to just, basic stuff as to kind of why we got there or what that is. Because sometimes things that seem, oh, it's pretty basic, let's just do this. It's like, well, no, there's a whole lot of other things that are running in the background that you got to consider also.
I think that same friendly connection that you're speaking about is another aspect of that I personally have seen, and I think others have as well, is the new CEO that's now in place with the NRA, Doug Hamlin. Yeah. Curious, can you share a little bit about how that, you think, how his leadership has been a benefit?
Well, he's a completely different person than our last CEO, EVP, completely. And Doug he works 7 days a week. He is, I text him at 7:00 in the morning and he's like, as soon as I get out of the gym, I'll call you back. Right. But he makes himself available. He's doing town halls and he's doing meetings and he's traveling all over the country and he's making himself available to people to answer their questions and really to turn things around and to troubleshoot. So he was a really, really good pick in a time when things were kind of rocky as to who we were going to get as our EVP. And frankly, there was a spot where sometimes some people couldn't or didn't or wouldn't work for the NRA because the reputation had been so smeared that they didn't want their logo on their shirt,
That's, by the way, that's no exaggeration. You and I talked earlier about how, I was going, I don't want any parts of the NRA. And you and I were having this conversation via text. And I can't remember if we were actually talking on the phone by that point or if we were still doing it via text. But at some point, I was just like, nah. I was kind of trying to get out of the conversation. I already made up my mind, and I had no faith in whoever this new guy was. And you said, look, how about I have him call you? And I thought, yeah, well, like that's going to happen. It was 6:00 in the morning on like a Thursday, and I was still laying in bed having this text conversation with you. And I said, whatever. Okay, great. Have him get a hold of me. 5 minutes later, my phone rings, and it's Doug Hamlin. He's saying, hey, Amanda wanted me to talk to you. He really, truly is accessible.
Yeah.
It was. I was pretty amazed just by that.
We spent quite a bit of time spending with him at SHOT Show, that evening at the Gun Days. He was very personal, really excited about the new things that he's putting in place and the new look in the face of the NRA. And it was refreshing to see that top-down leadership really having an impact and seeing where that change is coming from.
Oh, and he and the three officers of the board, they're working so hard, and it's showing up. You'll see it. People are like, oh, well, I'm waiting until I see things. And I'm like, I can tell you exactly to the moment when the NRA hit bottom and they turned around. And you may not see it, but I sure do. And I think that there will be a time when you'll start to see more and more of it. And so we're really heading there.
What's the future look like? Talk about the future.
The future's pretty bright. There is so much, there's so much stuff that's happening I'm the chairman of NRA Media. And so that NRA Media portion, the things that we are doing for the communications and to get out and to talk to members and to make that voice of the NRA, the voice of the Second Amendment is a really big thing. I'm watching the membership committee, I'm watching the finance committee. The finance committee has pulled in and we are in the black. The NRA has functioned as an organization, not quite in the black for years because they just lived then on the donors' money that came on in addition to the money that they ran as a business. We're running it as a business. So it is a completely different thing, and our budget has brought us into the black this year.
So is that typically just like membership dues? Is that where the
Sorry, I
vast
have an
majority? Oh, no problem. The vast majority of the money is coming from, aside from donor money, or is it also like classes and different things?
It's really multifaceted. When you look at the size of the NRA, it's huge. And so it's member dues, it is trainer and instructor dues, it is classes, it is donations. It is stuff like the Wall of Guns and those kinds of different fundraising things that you'll see. So all of that it's coming from all different directions, and you've got to manage it like it's a business.
Can you talk a little bit about why membership is important and kind of what perks come with the life member, particularly, like your ability to be more involved in the future of the NRA?
So Okay, so it's changing every single day. It's changing because there's a group. There is a group that is putting together an app. They are working on making all the member features. I don't know what you'd call them. So there's
Perks,
discounts
maybe.
and there's perks and there's
Yeah.
features and there's the magazine and there's digital stuff and so there's all these different things and they're trying to put them all together in a package that people will see. But you have a voice, you get to vote, and the life membership allows you to vote for board members and for that board direction. So that to me is another one of those perks. But you get to pick the people that you want to help represent where the NRA is and where it's going.
Do you know about how many life members there are and what percentage of those are involved in the election process?
Well, it's you can vote if you are a life member or if you've been a continuous repeating renewal member for 5 years or more. And so I know that there's 2.7 million voting members,
Wow.
which in whichever bucket that they come from. And so those are people who have never let their membership lapse, all of that. And about 100,000 of them vote. Right? I mean,
100,000.
it's like 4%. Yeah.
That's crazy.
So your vote matters. It really matters. Read the bios, look at the magazine, figure it all out because it's all there.
So
And
only 4% of the eligible folks who can vote for the future of the NRA and the direction that the NRA are going in are making all of the decisions related to who serves on that board. That
Correct.
is crazy.
And in a lot of cases, I have to say that they pick names they know. And we'll just go kind of down the political line. In politics, where I'm involved in politics, it's like, people will vote for Captain Crunch because they know his name. And so this is what happens too with the NRA board. And I'm begging you, please read their bios, look for skill sets that you would like to see in your NRA and pick those people based on those bios.
So running it like a business, how would you describe your product to people? What is the NRA's product? If you're running it like a business, what is the product that NRA is selling?
Civil rights. We truly are civil rights. We are the defender of the Second Amendment, but it is the defender of all of the Constitution, because without the second, the first doesn't get to stand, So it really is a civil rights organization, and it is looking at it to say that when somebody politically says, oh, well, they shouldn't have taken a gun to a protest. And it's like, well, wait, you can have a gun at a peaceable protest. So it's like, au contraire, we're going to have an opinion on that because this is how this is. So the NRA is that kind of barrier. They are the laser pointer and every member is the cat. We are saying, look here or look at that or pay attention to this or call these people. And so that the NRA is watching all of that and then feeding back to you where your attention really needs to be so you can spend the rest of your time going to the range, going to dinner with your family, all of those kinds of things. Yeah.
So, okay. So what do you need folks to do? How do we get you to
vote
stay
for
on
me.
the board? Vote for you.
Well,
Walk us
no,
through.
I mean,
Let's say
it's bigger than vote for me, but it is, but it isn't. So if you open up your magazine, your February magazine, if you're eligible to vote, you got a magazine. If you've got a magazine with a ballot in it, then we want you to read the bios and we want you to send it back. If you pull out the entire package from the magazine of the ballot, then there's an ad directly in there. That's a 2-page ad. And that is the group that I consider the reformers. electednewNRA.com is the website, but those are the reformers. And so knowing that this year you're allowed to vote for 29 people.
Wow.
Out of the 38 that are 38 that are on the ballot and available, you're allowed to vote for 29 of them. But know that everybody's jockeying for position for a 3-year term. So if you don't need to vote for all 29, vote for the ones that you like their bios. Move them ahead. That's really, really the thing. But know that this year, most of the people that are on the ballot are going to get elected in some manner. And it's because we've chased away a whole bunch of people who we didn't want to stay. And so from October to December, I think 13 board members quit. They took their crayons and they went home. because they found out that the meetings in September weren't any fun because their friends weren't there. They weren't any fun because they couldn't push us around and they couldn't bully. There wasn't any fun. And so they just took their crayons and went home, and we were like, see ya. So the reformers are in a really good place, but now we're trying to position them for the 3-year terms, just so that we know what we've got. We know what the votes are looking like, that they're solid and set for their committees. And so that's really it. But frankly, read the bios and pick the people that you believe have the skill set that you're looking for.
Is it too late to become an eligible voter?
Or
do we know?
It's really, really close. I can't tell you the exact day. I think it may be before the end of February. But you have to join as a life member, and then those life members can vote. But it comes in, it's probably 30 days before the ballots are due, and the ballots are due March 29th. And they have to be in their hands March 29th.
Still a good idea to become an NRA member.
It really is. And, I'm going to say that the stuff that's coming up and what it looks like is all really good stuff. So, yeah.
All right, cool.
Just, I think we're kind of wrapping up, right? But one last kind of question for you.
Right.
What are some of, just from your experience on the board and what you've seen the direction be over the last couple of years, what are some of the things that you would like to see in board members? Is it fiscal? Is it, manufacturing experience? Is it, social media experience? Like, what are the things that you feel are the weak spots of the NRA board right now?
I'm going to say that we need people with business sense. That's really it. And so problem solving, business sense, somebody that can look at something and see what's going to happen 2, 3, 4 steps ahead, whatever that is. So as an example, look at the fact that we're located in Virginia, and look at what's happening in Virginia. And so politically, what's happening in Virginia, and what happens to the NRA, what happens to NRA publications, or what happens to the museum, or what happens to, all of those kinds of things. And so somebody's got to kind of look through that and say, is the museum safe? What does it look like? Right? Do we have an issue with its history? Do we need to figure something out? Do we need to expand the museum we're already in 3 locations. Do we need a 4th location to move, whatever that is, anticipate. We need people with skill sets that can look at problems and anticipate what to happen and have an emergency plan, whatever that is. We need people to look at NRA media and say, where are we going in 5 years? What does media look like in 5 years? How do people absorb their news in 5 years, right? And so that we set it all up and that we're prepared so that it's a smooth transition and we're not just knee-jerking in one direction or another. So I need business people, business-minded people that are visionary, people that see things in the future and can elaborate on them and can bring a team along with them. If they just say that they've got it and they run, that's not helping us, because, you've seen those hats that say, I'm their leader, which way did they go? Mm-hmm. That doesn't do us any good either. So you got to be able to build a team, work with a team. And so we had a whole lot of lawyers. We need a whole lot of business people.
I like that distinction. Less lawyers, more business sense is what I'm hearing. I like it. And I just looked at the rules. It looks like you have 50 days before the annual meeting of members in order to get your membership, your life membership, or your 5-year mark, and then you'd be eligible to vote. So if you are not a life member, you still have time.
Yeah, 50 days from the meeting of the members is that Saturday, what is that? April, let's see. I'm sorry.
No, I
February,
think
March, April. It would be 50 days from April 18th, because that is the members meeting date.
So not many days left.
Well, hold on,
No.
I'm counting.
Doing some
21,
math.
28, 35, 42. One more. Okay, so we're looking at you've got a little under 2 weeks from now to sign up. But just if you're listening to this, just go online. It's really easy. NRA.
Yep.
What is it? NRA.org. NRA.org. Get your life membership and become eligible to vote. Get those ballots in.
And they'll send you a packet, and then you can vote. Right? Exactly.
Awesome. Amanda, very, very cool. Any parting words?
Well, thanks for having me. And are you coming to the NRA annual meeting in Houston? Because it is going to be a fabulous party.
I'm actually not going. Are you going?
I'm
You're
not.
going?
I'm sorry.
I've gone to a bunch of them, and I like them, and they are a big party. But I only have so
Right.
much time in my schedule. But
It's hard for me to get away that weekend because I have a Girl and a Gun national conference like that following week, and I'm going to be in Colorado for 10 days. So I'm already taking quite a bit of time to go do that. So it was just
I'll
two
see you there
back-to-back,
too.
But yes,
I'll see you there
I'll see
too.
you there.
But I'm retired, so I can do that.
yeah, I still have a full-time job and all that
Right.
stuff. So, and a husband and dogs. So
Right.
awesome.
There's
Amanda.
one other person who hasn't spoke. Are you going?
It's possible. It's possible.
Yay.
Really, I didn't know that.
I'm
You
gonna,
think about it?
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna see if I can make it work.
There you go.
Okay. Sounds good.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Amanda.
Amanda.
Thank you.
So the lifeblood of every organization is membership. We absolutely need membership. And you as a Second Amendment activist want to be involved. You want to help make things better. And we have a way for you to be involved, get involved, or stay involved. Look at our volunteer page. If you go to sdcgo.org/volunteer, we keep it up to date, and there's always an opportunity for you to get more involved. Our bread and butter are our shooting socials, where we teach people how to shoot. They've never had a shooting experience. Maybe they're brand new to shooting and they want to have a first-time shooting experience. You can help us do that. Or if you want to help spread the word, we have tabletops at different gun shops, at different events, and you can volunteer to tell people more about the Second Amendment, more about how to get a CCW, or more about being a member of an organization like SDCGO. The good news is it's super easy. We'll help train you. We'll help you get involved. We'll give you the opportunity to do good things.
If you don't have the time to volunteer, there's another way that you can help too. We are always looking for folks to donate. And if you want to pledge $5,000 in this next year, we will have you on our show as a guest host. So come join us in the studio. We would love to have you here for one episode, and that is for a price of $5,000.
$5,000 donation to San Diego County Gun Owners gets you a guest host with me and Dakota and Alicia, and you can talk about whatever you want to talk about, and you get to do whatever you want right here on Gun Owners Radio. So thank you so much. Whatever you do, just do a little bit more than you did last year and help us defend and preserve the Second Amendment right here in your backyard. All right, so
I don't really watch sports anymore. I used to be a fairly big football fan, and I had a couple different teams, but I think the one that was my favorite for the longest was the Green Bay Packers. And that's because I'm from Wisconsin. So I was a big Packer fan, and we have a story here that involves my favorite team, the Green Bay Packers, and my favorite subject, the Second Amendment. Rasheed Walker of the Green Bay Packers, he's an offensive lineman. He was arrested Friday morning, this is last week, a couple weeks ago, at LaGuardia Airport in New York after he tried to check in a bag that contained a firearm.
Ruh-roh.
Yeah, 25 years old, taken into custody and charged with 2 counts of second-degree criminal possession of a weapon and criminal possession of a firearm, according to the New York Post. He appeared in Queens County Criminal Court on the gun charge and was released later on Friday. It's on the surface, it's like, hey, why were you being a bonehead, right?
No, I mean, to me, this doesn't seem boneheaded.
If you read the article states he followed complete TSA protocol.
Yeah.
Well, that's where I was going,
I know.
guys.
All right.
That's where I was headed. That was going to be the next sentence after on the surface, why was he being a bonehead?
Then don't pitch it to us.
But the first what I just read from was ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if have you guys ever ESPN fans? Not really. No. ESPN has had some of the most left-wing.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Hence why my answer is no when you ask.
Yeah, I'm like, you guys are supposed to be talking about sports.
Oh, that's funny. Mm-hmm. I don't really watch sports TV at all. The only thing I use ESPN for is like keeping track of game scores for NCAA stuff. That's literally the only sport I
In fact, what's the guy's name from MSNBC? He came from ESPN, and he's like this big lefterson. I'll think of it.
I have no idea.
People listening right now are screaming at the computer. I can't remember the dude's name.
Okay, so the ESPN slant was basically like
Mike Tirico?
this guy. This guy was arrested Friday morning after he tried to check in a bag that contained a firearm.
Yes.
Okay, so now
So NRA ILA put out the same story, but a little bit different.
With more info.
One bill has stood above the rest for decades as NRA ILA's top federal priority, and the New York City metro area has once again shown why. National reciprocity legislation, which recognizes the rights of citizens as they lawfully travel interstate with firearms, cannot come fast enough. So they go into the angle of, hey, look, we need to have some consistency on this. This guy wasn't doing anything wrong, in one state, although it turned him into a felon in another state. He goes on to say, unfortunately, it won't come fast enough for Green Bay Packers football player Rasheed Walker, who was arrested last week at LaGuardia Airport. Walker reasonably thought that he was following proper protocol by declaring his unloaded, locked, and secured handgun in the checked baggage at the Delta Airlines ticket counter at check-in. Now, ESPN failed to cover that part.
yeah,
They didn't go over that whole situation. Indeed, this is the proper and recognized protocol virtually everywhere else in America. Unfortunately, this particular Delta ticket counter was located in New York, one of the few remaining states that refuses to recognize Second Amendment rights for travelers. It keeps happening. New York, New Jersey,
yeah.
a lot of these states. I remember there was a story just a few years ago about a lady who couldn't get, she missed her exit and went from Pennsylvania to New Jersey,
Right.
and was, committed a felony, even though she was, legally carrying.
She got caught because she was like speeding or something, and she got pulled over, and they asked her if she had a weapon in the vehicle, and she was honest.
Something along those lines.
I feel like I saw headlines about that a while back. There was one where a plane got diverted because it couldn't land where it was supposed to land, and there was a guy on the plane who had, legally checked in a firearm per the airline policy and everything at the Florida airport or wherever they were coming from, and they had to divert due to weather to New York, and when he landed, he was arrested.
Yeah, and especially a career like a football player where you travel a lot.
Yeah,
Right.
it's like do you have security or are you your own security? Like, crazy.
There was an interesting thing that NRA ILA pointed out. I didn't know about this. Americans fly through the skies every day with properly declared and checked firearms throughout most of the country. A federal law, I haven't heard of this federal law. I don't know if you guys have. The Firearms Owners Protection Act, or FOPA, supports the ability of citizens to travel interstate with firearms. I'd never heard of that. Have you guys heard of that?
No.
I don't know. I'd have to look into it more to see what it says, but FOPA does not ring a bell.
So it says, even though FOPA exists, various jurisdictions, none more notorious than the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, ignore the letter and spirit of the law, to say nothing of the Second Amendment. They harass travelers who pose no public safety risks whatsoever. That's an important point to point out.
Mm-hmm.
An offensive lineman is only a threat to a defensive lineman of the opposite team. He's, you know what I mean? He wasn't doing anything, which drives me nuts.
He was fully compliant. He was following TSA rules.
He wasn't
But he
attempting to
didn't-
break a law.
No.
He wasn't attempting to hurt somebody.
I will tell you, I always advise people, you have TSA, then you need to look at your individual airlines, and there can be some other stipulations that are thrown in there. But really, as we talked about with the bill proposing the 8-hour course, how are people that are in an unusual new place supposed to know the nuances of wild, random things that they're now held accountable to? And this is one of them.
I tend to be, if I could go on a little mini rant here, I tend to be very opposed to laws that have like these blanket statements, like you can never do this or whatever. It's far better to have laws that punish some kind of actual behavior that's happened. In other words, if they haven't tried to do something, then like a possession law, for example. Why is it illegal to possess a certain type of firearm?
Yeah.
Well, because we don't want them to murder somebody. Okay, well, murder
Murder's
is
illegal.
illegal.
It's illegal.
we should probably have a law against murder. But possessing something doesn't make any sense, especially when it's something you could use for good or bad or whatever. Anyway, that's my mini rant.
Okay, sorry, I'm sitting on this like hot tea.
Go for it.
Okay,
Go.
I
You
googled.
have hot tea?
I have hot
Hot
tea.
tea.
Oh,
I
my.
googled LaGuardia TSA firearm check. The AI overview says at LaGuardia, firearms must be unloaded, locked in a hard-sided container, and declared to the airline at the check-in counter for checked baggage only. Due to strict New York laws, violating these rules can result in arrest and fines of up to $15,000. Never bring a firearm to a security checkpoint. Declare by informing the airline representative at the ticket counter that you are checking a firearm. Ensure it's unloaded and locked. The firearm must be completely unloaded and secured in a locked, hard-sided case that cannot be easily opened. Ammunition must be in the original packaging but can be stored inside the same hard-sided case as the firearm. No carry-on. Firearms are strictly prohibited in carry-on luggage and at TSA screening checkpoint. Some of that's not true, but that's what the AI overview says. And then at the very bottom of this like 5 bullet point list, it says NYC laws. Note that New York City has strict gun laws. Ensure you have appropriate permits if applicable. Nothing there makes you feel like you're not allowed to
Do what he did.
legally declare a firearm at the ticket counter for Delta. If he did his due diligence and went to the Delta website and looked up how to fly with a firearm on Delta, there is nothing on the Delta website that says maybe different locations have different rules. It literally just says, here's how to make sure that you declare your firearm correctly. You know, firearms and ammunition rules. It talks about the 11 pounds of ammo being the max. There's nothing here that says anything about if you're at certain airports, you might get arrested for following these steps. It's actually like infuriating because he may have done everything right, even looking up the particular airport, and Google is telling him, yeah, you just show up and tell him you have a gun, make sure it's locked.
Which is what he did.
You know, the other thought is, I'll bet you they were in town to play the Giants. Maybe
There's a motive here.
there's a whole other level. There's a conspiracy.
That would actually make more sense.
Maybe the Delta airline and all the TSA guys were like, F the Packers.
Actually, I don't think that's true. I mean, this is. I don't think the Giants made it to the playoffs. I haven't watched football in a few years, but
He may have just been in New York for
Yeah.
fun or something.
the
Who knows?
Giants still suck, right? If you could leave in the comment, let me know. Confirm the Giants still suck, and the Packers are a far better, superior team. Anyway, this is another opportunity to bring up HR 38. It wouldn't exactly have applied in this situation, but HR 38 is the Constitutional Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act of 2025. Again, not exactly applicable in this situation, but so many times when you're traveling across all 50 states, you got to figure out this patchwork of laws and rules and regulations. When it's concerning a Second Amendment, you know, a natural right, a Bill of Rights issue, you shouldn't it shouldn't be this complicated. It certainly isn't this complicated for driver's licenses. I do truly believe, and I'm starting to lose faith in the Republican-led Congress. I do believe that if they don't pass this thing, it's going to be the Second Amendment world has no alternative but to completely scuttle Republicans and all their rhetoric, because this thing is such a good solution to such a big problem. And it has actually made it out of the House Judiciary Committee, but then it's been sitting there. It's not been doing anything. And I feel like we need to apply some pressure. This needs to happen. And it needs to happen quick because, you know, the only thing you can't get more of in politics is time, and we're running out of it. So, again, wouldn't have solved his problems, but I don't think we need gun laws to arrest Packers. That's not what we should be doing.
What's so crazy to me is that even when you're looking, like I looked up New York law possession of weapon at airport, and the top result on Google is this like law firm who wrote a whole article about it. And even this law firm's article is saying that under like federal law, you're allowed to transport weapons. while traveling through airports, as long as it's inaccessible during the flight and you go through the proper TSA and airline protocols. So I'm wondering, like, are these charges actually going to stand, or is this a case where overzealous, TSA officers or overzealous airport folks decided to make a big deal out of something that was technically legal? Like, I don't know enough about New York State. I know there's some rules that say you can't have a firearm unless you have like a CCW or something, and you can't get an out-of-state CCW, I don't think, for New York.
No.
So I don't know. Maybe there's something there. But even like a law firm in New York is saying you can travel through the airport. So it's complicated.
It's
to
way too
find
complicated.
the real, the truth, or even just to like be able to tell TSA, hey, here's the particular penal code that you have to look up, because the penal code I read was a little subjective. It's a little confusing.
Well, my guess is that the NFL organization is not going to let this happen. Like, they're going to put a lot of money and effort. And
Well, sure, but this
but
is
we don't
happening
have
to normal people.
That's what I'm saying. We don't have
Yeah.
the NFL on our side. So when you're saying, will the charges stick? Not for an offensive lineman on the Packers.
Yeah.
But for
I
you
see
and
what you
me,
mean.
hell yeah.
Yeah.
They would absolutely. They'd be happy to turn me into a prohibited person. By the way, the extremist left wing weirdo anchor who started on ESPN and went to MSNBC, I was thinking of Keith Olbermann.
Oh.
You know who Keith Olbermann is?
Never heard that name.
Never heard of him. So he's way left wing on MSNBC. He's a arrogant, POS, and has become synonymous with left wing extremism. He started out on ESPN. He was talking about sports on ESPN. I remember in the 90s watching this guy going, what are we doing? Why are we talking about, just give me some freaking, inside
Stats
gossip.
about baseball.
And yeah, I mean, anyway, so. All right. Well, there you go.
Wow.
So that's what's going on with the Packers. That's what's going on with the state of journalism. And hopefully we'll get some national reciprocity to solve these types of problems. Not his exact problem, but these types of problems need to be solved. The Second Amendment is a federal issue. The whole, part of the job of the federal government is to smooth out these types of disagreements when it comes to your civil rights, in all 50 states. So they need to act. They certainly promised us a lot and haven't delivered much at all. All right. What do you guys think? Anything
Agreed.
else? Good?
Nope, you summed it up well.
Well, thank you, Alicia.
Welcome.
It's the nicest thing you said to me all day. All right. Thanks for watching. See you guys.
Those of you who know me know that I love training. You've heard me talk about different classes I've taken and different opportunities I've had to train with some of the best. And I'm going to talk a little bit today about Massad Ayub. Those of you who have never had the opportunity to train with Massad, he is a legend in this industry. He was a former police officer. He has a ton of experience with deadly force, and he has a phenomenal instructor program called Deadly Force Instructor. I went all the way to Detroit back in 2022 to take this class from him, and you guys are super lucky. He is going to be coming to San Diego, so you don't have to travel far to get into this class. One of the things that I really appreciated about this class is the opportunity to do a mock trial. We got to actually play different roles in this trial, figure out who gets acquitted or not acquitted, and just deal with all of those repercussions as if they were real. So we had lawyers in class who were, actually debating their client's case. We had different witnesses go on the stand. I got to play the daughter of one of the characters on the stand, so that was a lot of fun. But it was just a great opportunity for us to experience how a good attorney can really make or break somebody's case. And we've seen this time and time again in the Deadly Force Instructor class. Sometimes you have an attorney who gets you off, and sometimes you have an attorney who doesn't. So it's a good opportunity for you to recognize how important the law process is and making sure that you have a good attorney. It's also a great way to make sure that you're teaching your students the best, most well-practiced pieces of the law. So for example, In class, Masad Ayub will go over a ton of different cases and do some case studies on how these cases turned out so that you can go back to your students with some real life knowledge of how these things played out in court. One of the biggest takeaways for me in this class was the amount of knowledge Masad Ayub had. And I mean, this guy knows so much about so many things. I took probably 8 pages of notes in this class, and I was able to come back to San Diego and I really revamped my entire CCW curriculum based on what I had learned. So not only is it real life data from actual shootings, actual defense situations, but it's also just a wide breadth of knowledge from an instructor who has literally decades of experience in this topic. I really enjoyed the class, and I think you would too. Go ahead and join us in San Diego if you are an instructor wanting to make sure that your students are getting the best information about deadly force and use of force. And if you're a defense attorney and you want to get a little bit of experience in a classroom with a bunch of folks who have the potential to use a firearm for protecting their own life in the future. So it's a great opportunity for you to learn about deadly force, being a better instructor, and being a better attorney.
Okay, so our next guest is Jon Mellis. Jon is one of the people that was at the Capitol on the infamous J6. January 6th, as we all know, 5 years ago now. And he has an interesting story. I wanted to invite him on and talk about some of the particulars because it isn't really, a lot of the things I've heard about what happened on January 6th didn't happen on January 6th. And so I wanted to hear from Jon directly about his experience. So Jon, thanks for coming on the show, man. How you doing?
Hey, thank you for having me on. It's appreciate it. And I'm doing a lot better than I was about a year ago.
That's what I understand. Well, let's start with your background. First off, I think it's interesting to point out that, you know, when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, a Republican had a very specific stereotype. You know, kind of a stuffy guy in a suit who, you know, country club, whatever. Clearly not. That's not who you are.
No, sir, not me.
So what do you think about the changes of the look of the Republican Party and the folks that I would say it's fair to say that Trump has brought into the Republican Party?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's well overdue. I think for too long, ever since Bill Clinton picked up that saxophone, the Democrats have had a monopoly on cool and rock and roll and all that kind of stuff. And it just, you know, I grew up in a Republican family, but I myself was a Democrat until actually 2018, until Trump came along 2 years into his first term. But I thought the Democrat Party was for the little guy, was the rock and roll middle finger against the system. But they have morphed into the system, and there's nothing more rock and roll than a middle finger to the system, and there's no bigger middle finger you can give the system than Donald J. Trump.
So what changed your mind? 2 years into his first term, what changed your mind? What were some of the specifics that made you go, "Hey, this is different"?
Well, you know, I was a Bernie bro before that. I liked Bernie because he claimed to fight for the little guy, and it was against the system, the people, and you know, I still don't dislike him. I feel like he's authentic, but his fix to the problem is bigger system, more system. Let's create more departments, more agencies to oversee the bad agencies and whatever. And with Trump, I noticed that, first of all, every single thing they said about him was a lie. I was horrified when he was first elected because I thought that, you know, just like they said, he was this inexperienced, he's going to start a war with Denmark, he's going to do some weird stuff, and we're not going to know what's going to happen. And when he got elected 2 years in, I noticed that none of that stuff happened. Actually, things were going better. And they just lied about him every step of the way. I would watch his press conferences, and I noticed that the media was so unfair to him, and they would attack him for no reason, and he would shoot back at them, and then they would report that he was ranting and raving. But I actually noticed that he was actually kind of funny with his responses. And so yeah, with the reality of what his presidency brought, and then the just watching his speeches and his press conferences, I noticed that they would just lie every step of the way. The media would.
I think it's interesting that you said that there's nobody that's more rock and roll and, you know, middle finger. One thing that really cracks me up, in the early 90s, I picked up a bass guitar, and one of the first bands I started playing along with was Rage Against the Machine.
Oh.
And even then, I was a pretty conservative kid. So even then, I was not really lined up with their politics, but I was definitely lined up with the sentiment behind the politics. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Fuck the man,
Right. The idea
I love
of
them,
but now
Raging for the Machine.
they are right. They're like, hey, the machine's
so
pretty
crazy.
great, and it's unbelievable. But it's always bothered me when people talk about, how Republicans, like, hey, how can this Democrat or how can this Republican, be a fan of metal or a fan of Rage Against the Machine or Metallica or whatever? Man, I grew up. There were a ton of protest songs: Metallica, Pantera, Fishbone. Rage Against, these were all, anti, screw you, stop telling me what to do, sentiment. And now they're like, hey, could you tell us what to do a little bit more? We kind of enjoy it.
You gotta get a vaccine passport to go to the concert now and stuff like that. It's gross.
It really, truly, it is. I mean, the Black Album by Metallica had the Gadsden snake on it. I mean, anyway, we could probably do a whole segment on the hypocrisy of metal. And oh, by the way, it was Democrats in the 80s that were banning heavy metal and going after Ozzy Osbourne and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, enough of that, John. So how did you?
I'm a big fan of freedom. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you get more involved with the Trump campaign, or what brought you closer? I mean, how did you get so involved that you ended up going to the Capitol on January 6th?
Yeah. So, I for years I had been involved in a lot of volunteering, hardcore. So a little bit about my story. I had already had a run-in with the law before, full disclosure, and I spent quite a bit of time in a prison for that. But I turned my life around, and I was out for several years, building a good life in Nashville. It was my first felony. It was my first drug charge. I was 21 years old. So it was a long time. It was in 2008. I received 10 years in prison for that. So I served, I received 20 with 10 suspended. So I served 10 years in prison in
10
Virginia.
years in prison is pretty hefty, my friend.
Yeah. I spent 10 years reading hundreds of history books, educating myself, reading dozens of college textbooks, word for word, cover to cover, turned my life around, got out, was out for 3.5 years, building a really good life in Nashville, volunteering a lot. I really threw myself into that. I was doing 20, 30 hours a week at the Senior Citizen Center, Ronald McDonald House, Youth Special Olympics, you name it. I was just obsessed with volunteering and giving back to the community because I felt like I'd wasted 10 years sitting in a box when I have two good arms and two good legs to work with. And so I did that for a few years, and then election year came, and it was the end of election year. It was during COVID, because COVID hit us in early 2020. It was just Twilight Zone that whole year. Everybody got locked down, and I traveled the country hiking. I had dreamt of my whole life of backcountry hiking all across the country and doing this thing. So when everybody shut down, I did that during the summer. I went to all the BLM territories, and national forests are the best.
Yeah.
National parks are like
BLM being Bureau of Land Management, not
the original BLM. Yes.
Just to clarify.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I wouldn't have fared well in those territories. No. So those are the best places to hike, actually. Bureau of Land Management and National Forests and stuff, because they're more free. You just walk off and there you are. National parks, are like hotel wilderness, so it's like a beginner stuff, but it was fun. So I did a lot of that across the country. And when I settled back on the East Coast, I got involved in local politics, which was the local Republican Party. Joined several committees, tried to see how it worked and what was going on, the machinery and the local politics. And I started going to rallies, and I started doing this the car parades. And then that's another thing, man. I've never seen a politician have like car parades and boat parades where everybody's got like flags for Trump and just like this giant, convoy of vehicles. And so I started getting involved that way. And I went to the January 6th was the third of 3 rallies in DC. There was November, December, and January 6th. So I went to all 3 of those.
Okay, so hold on. Let's get some specifics on this. The narrative is that it was some kind of organized, not just a demonstration or a protest, but some kind of organized event that you guys were going to disrupt.
Oh yeah, we planned a coup. We planned a coup to take over the U.S. government and put all the politicians on trial and right there in front of everybody on national television. We had planned it for months, and I'm joking.
Right now, an unarmed coup, by the way. You went there. Everybody was completely unarmed.
With children, and also we brought the kids with us. It was great. We were gonna have a whole day of it. Cotton candy and insurrection.
So how did you? So what I want to know is,
it was a rally. There were speeches scheduled at the Ellipse right south of the White House, and then there was scheduled speeches at the Capitol building. So that was the day we were going to do the speech. We were going to watch the speeches over at the White House, and then walk over to the Capitol building and watch the speeches there. It was a rally. It was a peaceful rally planned for that day, and
the third. It was the third. It was the third of 3, right?
It was the third of 3, yeah. So it was, but this was the main one. This was the big one because it was on certification day. We were basically rallying to ask Mike Pence to not certify the election and at least not to just send back those 7 states that were in question. That we wanted a full forensic audit. That's all we wanted, was a forensic audit on those 7 states to make sure that there was no funny business, because we saw a lot of footage and evidence of thousands of sworn affidavits under penalty of perjury of people who had seen funny business and extra ballots being counted and different things going on. So we wanted those 7 states to be, relooked at by those states. So we wanted Mike Pence to send it back to those 7 states and just check, because we had until January 20th, which is the day that, the inauguration day. So we had couple of weeks left, and that's all we wanted, was a full forensic audit on those 7 states, and that's why we went to the rally.
So, Jon, did it ever enter into your mind when you were headed to this rally, or even when you were walking to watch the speeches, did it ever enter into your mind that, hey, if we don't get what we want, we're going to tear this place apart?
No, but I was pissed off. I was pissed off because, we also got to remember that the night before was the runoff election in Georgia for the Senate seat, that final Senate seat. And the same thing on election day that happened the night before on January 5th, on that night, which was I think it was Warnock was running against, I think it was it either Loeffler was the Republican or Perdue. I forgot who the Republican was, but basically our guy was winning all night until 2 a.m, and then the votes shoot up for them and they win. And so we go to January 6th the next morning, and the Democrats are going to have majority of the communists are going to have a majority in the Senate, majority in the House, and they're going to have the presidency. And we felt like they stole that from us. So we were asking Mike Pence to do his thing. When I showed up there,
when you were you mad enough? I want to be really clear, and I want to ask the right questions. Were you mad enough that you then decided, hey, you know what? If we don't get what we want, this place we're gonna tear this place apart. Things are gonna go crazy and nuts. Or did you hear anybody say anything like that?
No, I said something similar. I didn't have a plan, and nobody had a plan for anything weird, but I remember having conversations up at the Washington Memorial, or Washington Monument, and it was, the Democrats, they rioted over 500 times all across our country in the summer of 2020, and they got everything they wanted, every single time. They said defund the police. Those locations defunded their police. They got they everything the Democrats want. When they riot, they get everything they want. And I was like, we are always peaceful. We are always nice. We're always gentle. We always follow the rules, follow the law to a T. We don't get off the, we don't get off the sidewalk when they say don't get off the sidewalk when we're protesting. And we always get screwed. We always get shafted. So there was conversations like that, but there was no specific like plan to freak out or anything like that. I remember people were pissed and people were like, this is unfair. They steal things and they riot and they get everything they want. And they say that the riot is the voice of the unheard. Well, over 500 times that summer, we had riots all over the country. They are not the unheard. Their side is all we ever hear in sitcoms, in commercials, on mainstream media. The left-wing perspective is the only thing we ever hear. It's jammed down our throats. We're even censored. Conservatives are even censored online, and we don't even get to get our voice out there. When society shut down, our only platform was online.
So
when we're censored,
on January 6th, when did you start to see? When did it occur to you that, hey, things might be getting out of hand here? Or you know what I mean?
So I was walking down toward the Capitol building. I was taking videos of how much, how big the crowd was. I was amazed, and I saw the crowd piling up at the west side of the Capitol building. So there's two big sides of the Capitol building. There's the east side and the west side. The west side faces the National Mall, and that's where most of the quote unquote action happened. On the east side of the building, the cops opened the doors, opened their own police lines, opened the doors, and let everyone in peacefully. But on the west side, they started shooting people with rubber bullets in the head. They started blowing up flashbangs in the middle of a peaceful crowd, shooting them hundreds of feet into the crowd with a launcher.
This is stuff you saw.
Well, I showed up right at the tail end of it when they broke the police line. So when I was walking, and if any of your audience is curious, I have on my Rumble channel. It is on Rumble. It's We Are Good Men. I have a montage of the police brutality that started the riot that day. It's on my Rumble. It's We Are Good Men on Rumble. I heard the pops and the bangs. I thought it was fireworks. I didn't really register what it was until I heard a roar come from the front of the crowd over by the Capitol building. And I thought like Elvis had walked out or something. But I noticed that people were then climbing on the inaugural stage. That's when I noticed, once I saw people climbing up on the inaugural stage, that's when I noticed that things were a little different. And originally, I just wanted to climb up there and smoke weed where the president gets inaugurated because I thought that would be kind of cool. So when I got up there, that's when I noticed that there was the hallway and there was all this action happening. But as I said, you can look back at the footage and see why that.
How did the attitude around you change when people started to notice the same things?
It was so much pressure and frustration and just sadness at knowing the communists had stolen the country. But as soon as it changed, as soon as it was cathartic joy is the best way I can describe that crowd. It turned into this, it just elated, just euphoric, like, fuck the system. This is bullshit, and we're gonna climb on this building. We're gonna wipe our feet on their carpet. And it was fun. I'll be honest with you. It was fun.
Well, but you weren't worried? You weren't thinking, hey, this thing's getting, was violence in your thoughts? Were you thinking to yourself like, hey, this is going to get violent and that's good? Or were you thinking, hey, I think we're all just going to be a bunch of smart asses and then this whole thing will be over? Like, talk a little bit about intent and what way things escalated.
I figured when we climbed on the inaugural stage, I got up there and I noticed they were pushing in the hallway. There's a hallway up there they call the tunnel. So legally, they call the inaugural stage the Lower West Terrace on paperwork, on the legal documents. And then they call that hallway right there the tunnel. So the tunnel was where the main action was happening that whole day, where they say, oh, is this violent? Well, that was where it was happening. And you see, like, it was basically on one side, there was fully armored, helmeted, gas masked, shielded cops, a giant tank of fully armored police on one side, and then the protesters on the other. And it was this trying to push through and get open up the hallway and let everyone in. I witnessed, people covered in blood, women, old people, sprayed gas everywhere. Yeah, I knew that there was a little bit of violence going on in that hallway, but to be fair, we're not, I'm not a shrinking violet. I've seen violence before, and mostly from the protester side that I witnessed, and I was a lot of pushing and shoving, where the police were actually literally bashing skulls with fucking batons and cattle, those electrocution devices that they stab people with. And I mean, the cops were definitely being no holds barred
The
violence, but
cattle
the
prods.
protesters were
I got to
mostly
tell you,
peaceful.
John. Be honest with you, I don't know. Maybe it's my age, but I'm not a tough guy. I would have walked the other way. I would have 180'd and gotten out of there way early. When I first started seeing things get out of hand, I'm out. I don't want to be a part of this. I don't want this to stain, everything that's going on. I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to be that guy. Help me understand.
Well, what
Help me understand
having
why.
studied, I'm a history buff, and having studied history and seen what was going on, and been on the left, been a Democrat, and then red pilled to a Republican. I see what's going on, and I know that the far left, the Democrats are now the Communist Party. I mean, they're openly saying they're socialist. And watching the election fraud, watching what happened in Georgia in the video footage where they wheel out new ballots, the boxes of ballots in the middle of the night, and they do it right in our face, and they flaunt it, and they get away with it. I was pissed, and when I saw people broke the police line, and I figured we were going to go occupy the building. I figured when we got inside the Capitol, we were going to sit down and do like a sit-in. I even said as much on the inaugural stage, where some lady was freaking out. She was like, "Oh my God, what do we do when we get in? What do we do when we get in? If we get in, And I said, well, what we do is we go into the House and the Senate, we fill it up, and we sit down. And we wait until they hear our concerns about election integrity. We want those 7 states fully audited. That's it.
Which
With the
by the way,
violence kind of
John,
thing, it's like DC riots
yeah,
every freaking week.
and you pointed out that this is in your mind, you're thinking, hey, this is the tactic they use on the left all the time.
Yes,
And it
that's the
goes
other thing is
swimmingly.
oh, yes, it's like, so I'm sitting there, and I'm on the inaugural stage, and I did have the thought a couple of times. I was like, oh, they're not gonna, they see stuff like this way worse than this. This isn't, honestly, it wasn't even that bad. They see riots way worse than this in DC every weekend. The Democrats do this on a regular basis in DC. This is nothing. I didn't think it. I was like, oh, we're not going to nobody's going to get arrested. That's crazy. They can't arrest all of us, and they never do that. They never arrest everybody involved.
So
in
let's
the thing.
talk about the fallout. What happened after? How did you end up?
Yeah, they arrested all of us. Yeah, they hunted us down and arrested
was
all
that
of us.
like?
I was
'Cause
arrested like I was Al Qaeda. I was pre-dawn raid with dozens of fully armored FBI agents, militarized with automatic weapons. Yeah, I was, yeah. So I was arrested like I was Bin Laden, and I was put on
How
solitary
long after
confinement for
though?
years.
It was weeks after. It was months after. Like, give us
About
some
a month
details.
later. About a month later, I was arrested, and I was put in 2 different jails on my way to DC, all on solitary confinement. But I was placed in the DC jail after it took me about a couple weeks, 2 or 3 weeks to get to the DC jail as transfer, transferring and I was on solitary confinement for years.
Wow.
Denied visitation for years. And the DC jail guards were abusive. They would pop doors in the middle of the night, threaten you, beat you, zip tie you. One of the guys early on got zip tied and beaten within an inch of his life in the middle of the night. So they would put cleaning chemicals in our food, spike our food with cleaning chemicals for punishment. Black mold, brown water, all the worst conditions you can experience. Like I said, just the two first bad, the solitary confinement for years. The first 2 years were solitary confinement and denied visitation. We didn't see our families' faces for years. We were not allowed, not even on video.
On what was the exact charge? or charge
My
is?
charge was assault on an officer with a dangerous or deadly weapon. So what happened on January 6th that caused me to get involved in the violence for 10 seconds was I witnessed a woman being beaten and trampled to death by police who was on the ground lifeless with other people who were unconscious on the ground lifeless. And they were continuing to beat her, beat the people on the ground, and beat the people who were trying to get these bodies off the ground. And when I came around the corner at the mouth of that tunnel and I saw people screaming for help, her name is Roseanne Boyland. She was murdered by police that day. I jumped in action. I saw bodies on the ground, people screaming for help. I jumped in action, grabbed the wooden walking stick from a guy right there at the mouth of the tunnel, and I jabbed 2 officers off her. As soon as I hit those 2 officers, dropped them, the crowd was able to finally get those bodies out of the way and get her out of there so that the protesters started chest compressions on her. I was sprayed right after I struck the 2
So
officers.
the only person I heard of that lost their life that day was Babbitt, right?
Yeah, Ashley Babbitt, her mother,
So
Mama Mickey, was a great woman. But yeah, no,
who's
there
this
was
other
3
person you're
other
talking
people
about?
3 other people died that day.
Who's the woman you're talking? I haven't heard anything about this.
So Benjamin Phillips and Kevin Greason died early on before the police line was broken due to the flashbangs and explosive devices going off by their heads and things like that. They died of like a heart attack or stroke or whatever. There still needs to be investigation into these 2 deaths. And then Roseanne Boyland was the woman who died right in front of me. She was, and there's a lot of funny business with the way she died, not just the way she died, but then the way her situation was handled afterwards. The medical examiner. So there's videos where you can see her bleeding out of her nose, laying on the ground, and Officer Lila Morris is still bringing the still whacking her with her stick while she's laying on the ground, bleeding out of her nose. There's hitting her in the head actually after that. So
Wow,
there's
if you
we've
you
been
know if you Google Roseanne Boyland, the New York Times covered her, Vanity Fair did an article, NPR. I don't know the details. I'll have to read the details. But
so
Roseanne
yeah.
Boyland died after losing consciousness in the crush of a pro-Trump mob as it surged against the police. So the New York Times is blaming it on you guys. You guys killed her.
Yeah, originally they blamed it on a drug overdose, which is crazy. Yeah, it's weird. We were screaming from the rooftops, this woman, this is not a drug overdose. That doesn't make any sense. She was actually, so the medical examiner's office leaked to the family, not the medical examiner, but the medical examiner's office leaked to the family early on that it was a drug overdose. So that was like their little thing. So then the media covered it, said, oh, it was a drug overdose. But come to find out when the toxicology report came back, there was no illegal drugs in her system, no drugs at all in her system, which wasn't a surprise to us. But we know that the communists like to steal the news story and run with it as late as election year, just a year and a half ago or so, about a year ago. 60 Minutes did a report and still said she died of a drug overdose. She was actually 7 years clean and sober. I've spoken to her sister. She had even started a group to try to help other addicts and things like that. She was helping her community. She was a great woman. So they smeared her memory, and we were, supposed. And then by the time they found out that the toxicology report, she'd already been cremated. They already had the her funeral and everything like that. But the funny thing is if with someone like George Floyd, who was on fentanyl and meth when he died, if you even mention that he was on fentanyl or meth when he died, they'll riot. The Democrats will riot and pitch a fit and burn your city down and call you a racist, call you all sorts of names. But when they completely lie about a woman who died on January 6th, saying she was died of a drug overdose, we're supposed to just take that. So I just thought that was kind of unique. Ironic.
That's crazy. I'll have to read more about this. I don't know anything about this, but what was the resolution in your case? How did you finally get out of jail, and then what happened after?
Well, so I was sentenced to 51 months in prison, and I got out right before the election. So I still had like you do 85% of that. So it was like 43 months or something. I got out right before the election, and what's crazy is a month after I get out, I was raided by the police in Virginia because and they were they arrested me, and I was put in jail for a couple of weeks before I got out on bond. So I was on federal probation and bond for the state of Virginia. The 2008 charge that I had, apparently it was good behavior for life. So I was off probation years before January 6th. I was done with that sentence years before January 6th. You know, I was out the 3.5 years before January 6th. I got off probation like 2 years before January 6th. I was completely done with it. Well, a month after I get out for January 6th, right before the election last year, or was it? Yeah, 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago.
Year and a half.
I was arrested, and they were trying to give me 10 years in prison. The other 10 years that were over my head.
The same charge?
No, for the drug charge I received when I was 21 years old back in 2008.
Okay, so and what about now? I heard that a bunch of people got that Trump what do you call it? Forgave them. Pardon.
Yeah. So I was pardoned, which got rid of the I was on 3 years of probation for the federal government and also a $21,000 fine. That went away. So it's like it never happened. And then the violation they were trying to give me 10 years, they dropped that charge because because I was pardoned from the original charge, there's no violation. So
Jon, I'm glad. I think that being pardoned was the right thing to do. I think that this whole thing was, no pun intended, but trumped up. I don't think that they told the truth of exactly what happened on January 6th. That being said, I think this is a big time cautionary tale. I run an organization full of volunteers. We've been around for 10 years. We've been very effective. We've never done a rally or a protest or a march. Never, not one time. And we've gotten a lot of things done. We've had press conferences. We've shown up at city council meetings. Excuse me. But I've always said these rallies, these marches, don't do them. They always make you look bad. They always turn it around and say, hey, look at these weirdos. And I think that you have every right to show up and protest and, say your piece and peacefully assemble. Excuse me. But look at how quickly things got out of hand and the consequences, to your life, but then also the consequences to the reputation of people who supported Trump. This whole thing went sideways is so understated. And I completely agree that they were lied about you, and that the way that things unfolded, the way they said the things unfolded were not accurate. So it was a lie. It wasn't an insurrection. But I also I watch some of it and I get so, and I know people are like, well, there were plants and there were federal agents and whatever. I get so frustrated though. I see some of the footage and think to myself, why were you there? Why would you do that? Why would you go into the Capitol building? Why would you, why would you do that?
The riot is the voice of the unheard. That is true. The riot is the voice of the unheard. And when you got people that just, when you watch people getting shot in the face with rubber bullets, I mean, we had Joshua Black was shot right through his cheek. And that was one of the first instances that people started to really get revved up. If you look at the footage I have on my Rumble, you'll see where people actually start to get agitated. And it's when the cops start beating the crowd and shooting us in the face. That's when you start seeing people get really pissed off. And, when you've got all that tension built up. I mean, I agree that these rallies, they're only limited effect. I mean, even on the flip side, if nothing happened violent or anything notable, they would say, even though, tens of thousands or 100,000 or 1 million people showed up, they'd say, there's only a couple of hundred weirdos, and the media would, twist it and say it was just some nothing burger. But what do you do? What do you do when you watch your country getting stolen by communists?
And that's a good question. What do you do? And I think that the way that you and I got connected was through the possibility of going to a fundraiser. I think that going to hosting a fundraiser, political fundraiser, having those types of events, that's what you do. I think that the things that you're doing now are potentially very effective. And I think that's the way to go. And when I say it's a cautionary tale, I'm not just up on my high horse. I'm telling you from my years of experience, from what I've observed, it just isn't effective. You know, the political fundraisers, those are effective. You know, educational community building type of, you know, that's effective. But showing up, rally, protest, big sign that says screw you, liberal, or whatever, doesn't ever get anything done. It just doesn't.
I agree. Mostly, I want to push back on a little bit with the, you know, the violence that day, the storming the Capitol building, actually storming the Capitol building and trying to go inside. I feel like it I don't feel like it smeared the reputation of MAGA. I feel like it gave us a little bit of an edge. I feel like it showed people that we are actually serious. We're not just like you know, mindless puppets just not believing what we're saying. We are actually here for real, and we're actually willing to storm the fucking building to stop communists. I mean, if you really believe the election was stolen, and you really believe that these are communists and they are dishonest, they are lying, they are stealing elections, if you believe that, then you're willing to storm that building and get a little violent. If it comes down to that, if the cops start attacking you, you're willing to say, go fuck yourself, we're coming in. But if you're not, if you're just full of crap, if you don't believe it's communist and you're just saying it's communist, then you're just these like weak little, you know, wilty things that walk away when you're attacked by cops. I feel like it gave us a little bit more rock and roll. You know, there's nothing more rock and roll.
I hear what you're saying, but if I were to interview all the folks who went, you know, on January 6th and, you know, stormed the Capitol or whatever, and I asked them, hey, how many candidates have you supported? How many precincts have you walked? How many envelopes have you stuffed? How many phone calls have you made? How many fundraisers have you held? How many checks have you written? You know what I mean? If the answer is none,
you've got a lot of guys doing that.
Or close to, but I guess all I'm saying is, if your first step is, okay, well, I've done absolutely nothing. My first step is I'm going to go to January 6th and storm the Capitol. You know, I'm like, okay, you're doing it all wrong. I hear what you're saying about being frustrated, though. You're right. I'll tell you what. Last thing I want to ask: is there anything you regret about that day, or you know, is there any lesson? I don't even want to put it that way. Is there a lesson you learned, or is there something that you walked away with because of your experience from January 6th, either good or bad?
Never trust the system. Never trust the government. From the moment I got locked up, I figured, you know, early on, I was like, oh, this is just a big misunderstanding. They're going to realize, look, I'm not saying I shouldn't have gotten charged with something and in some kind of consequence. I get it. I trespassed on a thing but you know, what they did to us was torture for years. And I figured that the system would work itself out. Like, oh, they'll figure, you know, we're not terrorists. That's what they keep telling everybody that we are, that we're just regular people. Because a lot of the guys I was locked up with were family men and business owners and people, like you said, who have been involved on different levels, people who have run for local office, for sheriff, people who have done different things. And this was our last step. This was our last thing to show up. And you know, I'd say, you know, don't trust either party. Republic.
What happened? Look at that. All right. Well, there you go. Don't trust either party. It's a good thing to go out on. Well, we clearly lost it. Oh, there you go.
Hey. Yeah.
All right.
Oh, sorry. Don't trust the government.
Jumped in there, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, they're trying to get me now, you see. They don't want me to send a message.
Well, I think don't trust either party is actually a really good message to go out on. Jon, I really appreciate we went a little bit longer than I wanted to, or that I expected to, because I wanted to talk to you more about some of the details, but I appreciate you being so candid and everything. And I truly appreciate the efforts that you're putting in now when it comes to the fundraising and community building that you're doing. And thank you for doing that. I really
thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And if anybody wants to check me out and support my mission, go to wearegoodmen.com. And I got to give a special shout out to Michelle Farrell Management. As you can see, this beautiful woman right here in this front cover of Playboy is also my manager as well. She's so MichelleFellerManagement.com. God bless her. God bless America. God bless you, sir. And thank you, everybody, for watching.
All right. Thanks, John. Thanks for being on.
I've got some classes you are not going to want to miss out on. We are bringing Chuck Haggard from Agile Training and Consulting out to San Diego in March. He's going to be here the evening of March 13th teaching a low light class. This is going to be perfect for those of you who have a home defense firearm and want to learn a little bit more about how to use light in your home, how to use a handheld flashlight, and whether or not a weapon mounted light is the right choice for you. On Saturday, March 14th, he's going to be teaching an all-day at the range concealed carry skills class. He'll be covering pepper spray, flashlights, tourniquet use, and then of course lots of shooting and practice dealing with unknown aggressors or just random people walking up to you. There will be a lot of opportunities for you guys to practice your verbal judo and de-escalation skills as well. On Sunday, March 15th, he's going to be teaching an all-day retention and disarms class. There will also be shooting in that class. You'll be able to shoot from different positions of retention, and he will teach you a little bit about how to avoid being disarmed yourself or how to assist with disarming somebody else. So I hope to see you guys there.
Okay, we got another good question for Stump My Nephew. Sam, my nephew, is extremely good in gun trivia. So send questions to stump him. Because frankly, he's been getting a lot of them right lately, and he's been strutting around here like he owns the place. So send something good and difficult for him to answer, and you will win a hat or a shirt if we use your question, or you'll win a special prize if you actually are able to stump my nephew. So without further ado, Sam, how's it going?
Good. Though I do have something to add to the conversation we had last week. I did some research in the book I showed on camera, and I determined that although I got the details of the answer correct, the answer itself that I gave was inaccurate. So the question, as a refresher to our listening audience, was what was the, it was something along the lines of what was the most used service rifle for American troops in World War I.
Yep.
And I said that we, the United States, made more M1917s than M1903s by a wide margin. But I incorrectly stated that M1917s were primarily held in reserve in the US to free up more 1903s to go overseas. And the reason I got that wrong is because that's true of the Marine Corps, but it was not true of the Army, who had a much larger contingent overseas. So I'm going to say, I don't remember the sender's name. It started with a C. It might have been Carlos or something. I say give him the prize.
Okay.
That explains the flood of complaint mails we've gotten. We haven't even opened the numerous bags of people writing in. So I'm glad you stepped
that
up.
up.
Yeah, glad you stepped up and admitted you were wrong, because it did not go unnoticed. I got to tell you. No, I'm just kidding. All right, well, maybe we'll give him a prize. Let me evaluate. He definitely got a hat or a shirt, so maybe we'll give him a special prize. So awesome, good info. Okay.
All right, Sam, you ready for your question for today?
Sure, let's have it.
All right.
He sounds so excited today.
All right, your question comes from Tanner, and Tanner lives in Oceanside. His question is, why do some rifle barrels use gain twist instead of a constant twist rate?
Connor from Oceanside, thank you very much for writing in. Why do some rifles use gain twist instead of standard rifling? Gain twist, for those of you who don't know, means that the rifling twist rate increases over the length of the barrel. So it starts off relatively gentle, and these are just made up numbers here because it depends on the round for which the rifle is chambered, but let's just say starts at 1 in 12 inch or 1 in 14 inch at the chamber end, and then increases to 1 in 8 inch or 1 in 6 inch at the muzzle end. Again, made up numbers, but I think you get the idea. First of all, the reason to answer the actual question, why is gain twist used? As I understand it, the advantage of gain twist is to get more consistent stabilization of the projectile. I'm not 100% on this, but I believe it has something to do with getting more consistent stabilization on the projectile with very high muzzle velocity firearms. So you would see it more in like tank guns and artillery pieces, I guess. And it is extremely uncommon in small arms, almost unheard of in small arms. Again, I'm pretty sure it has something to do with working better with high muzzle velocities with large caliber weapons like that. But I don't know. That might have been wrong. What's the given answer? That's my final answer. What's the given answer?
I think we're going to have to take a vote on this one. I mean, Sam's answer makes sense to me, but it's not exactly what was submitted.
Yeah, I'm not smart enough to determine.
It doesn't seem to me like it matches exactly,
It
but
doesn't.
I feel like I vote that Sam probably is more correct than Tanner.
I think his answer
Well,
does
that's
make
a
more
very
sense.
diplomatic way of saying I got it wrong. So what did Tanner
No.
say?
No,
Well, I think there might be multiple,
there could
Correct
and
answers.
they might be, yeah. So
Because if I was to take a gander, my answer would have been the same as Sam's. That would have been my guess. That makes sense to me. But here's what the answer that was given says.
Sam, was that a guess, or do you feel confident in your answer?
Well, now that you've said that it doesn't match up exactly, I can't say I feel confident. But
When you were giving it, you were like, "This."
When
is
I gave the
truth.
answer, I'm like 60% confident. So
Oh, okay,
like,
okay. Room
Not-
for
not very.
potential incorrects.
yeah,
Incorrectness.
I think both things may be true here, or
Yeah,
they
that
may
could
be
be.
so closely related that.
Okay, so the answer that was provided says gain twist rifling gradually increases the twist rate down the barrel, reducing initial stress on the bullet and potentially improving accuracy and reducing jacket deformation. It's uncommon but historically used, including use in Colt back in with early day revolvers.
What do you think?
less jacket deformation. I would say he got me on that one.
Okay.
Wow.
All right.
Okay.
It
Well, there you
didn't
go.
because it didn't talk about large caliber heavy arms like tank guns, artillery pieces, and he's what did he say? He said less jacket deformation, and he said better accuracy.
Reduces initial stress on the bullet and potentially improving accuracy, also reducing jacket deformation.
Yeah, I think he's got me there. It does seem to make sense just heuristically for older revolvers because with very back in the day when bullet jacketing was not as common as it is now, a lot of bullets were just monolithic pieces of lead, which are a lot easier to destroy with aggressive physical forces like spinning really fast. So yeah, gain twist does make sense for that. Just again, heuristically, I'm not an engineer, but I think he's got me.
All right. Well, good job, Tanner from Oside.
There you go.
You stumped my nephew. Womp
Yep.
womp. What happened? We used to have like sound. We need a womp womp. Do we have a womp womp?
Sorry to disappoint.
All right, so if you have a question for Sam, just get on the website. We have gunownersradio.com. Scroll all the way to the bottom. There's a section called Get Help, and you'll see Stump My Nephew there. Click that, submit your question.
There you go.
That's it.
Maybe I need to click get help.
Okay.
That's
all
for
right.
Tanner.
Good job, Tanner. Cool, man. Thank you, Sam. Awesome job.
Let me tell you the story of a 23-year-old Ukrainian refugee named Erna. She fled the bombings in Ukraine, seeking peace and safety here in the United States. And instead, on October 22nd, 2025, she was fatally stabbed on a Charlotte light train rail during what should have been a routine commute. This was no targeted attack. It was sudden, it was horrifying, and it was violent. It's a painful reminder. Danger can strike at any time, anywhere, even in places we expect it to be safe. Erna came here with hope. She worked at a pizzeria, she studied English, and she dreamed of becoming a veterinary assistant. Her life was full of potential. and yet it was cut short by someone with a long history of mental illness and multiple arrests, someone who slipped through the cracks of the justice system. Her story is not a tragedy, it's a warning, a call, a truth we cannot ignore. Preparedness and awareness are critical for our safety, no matter who we are or where we come from. You may never be the victim, but danger does not discriminate, and safety is not about living in fear, it's about being proactive, being prepared, and having the tools and confidence to protect yourself. That's why Not Me SD exists, because we believe that every woman deserves the power to protect herself. Yes, our heart is in firearms training, but true self-defense is about choices. It's about finding what works for you, whether that's Krav Maga, pepper spray, situational awareness, or another tool that gives you the strength and peace of mind. We are here to walk with you through the journey. If you're ready to take that first step, or if you want to bring a group of women together for training, we're here for you. Our mission is simple, but powerful: to empower women with the skills, tools, and courage they need so they will never be the next victim. Together, we are rewriting the story from fear to strength. This is more about training. It's about building confidence. It's about creating a community of women who refuse to be silent, refuse to be helpless, and refuse to be the next victim.
So, did you guys get the email about SB 948 that we sent? Did you guys get an opportunity to see that? Did you see it?
Yep.
So
I'm sure I did, but I did not see it. I'm sorry. I get a lot of emails, but I have heard about it.
Thanks for reading our email. So we sent out an email that requires some action. We need you to take action. In fact, if you go to stcgo.org/take action, you'll see what we're talking about. If you receive the email, it'll have all the information there. But if not, go to stcgo.org/take action. It's about SB 948. That's a bill that's being introduced that I would say has a really good chance of passing. SB 948 would force Californians to complete an 8-hour government-mandated class and pass a live fire test just to obtain an FSC, a firearm safety certificate, which means, in effect, you can't buy a gun in California unless you take an 8-hour class with a live fire portion.
Yeah, it's actually insane.
I have a couple questions. Would it need to be the same caliber and make and model of the firearm you're looking to purchase? Do we have to do this with every purchase? It's just to acquire the FSC so we can. All right.
Yeah, it had in the bill kind of like the program, although it's missing a lot of details.
Right,
It says it says the Department of Justice will later give more information about what this class entails, but it sounds like it's a one-time 8-hour class. There's nothing in here about like renewal cycles or submit, there's no process in place yet. So it's not like they're telling us, okay, you're going to take the class and then you're going to submit the paperwork and then blah, they're not showing us what that process is going to look like. But as of right now, there's nothing in there that makes it seem like it's a repeating class. However, they can make whatever rules they want once this passes.
They're saying to obtain an FSC, there's no renewal for FSC either. You just have to retake the process, which right now is the test. So you'd have to retake that 8-hour course every 5 years.
There's a lot of, and if you read through, there's a lot of unanswered questions.
Right.
There's a lot of, ambiguity. One of the things we brought up in the email is, what if you move into California and you have a firearm that's lawfully owned? Mm-hmm. And you only have a certain amount of time to get that registered.
Mm-hmm.
60 days.
Yep.
So what if you aren't able, you own this firearm, it's totally legal. You come to California, by the way, maybe the military sent you, maybe a job, whatever. You have to be informed on this process and procedure and get it done within 60 days, which includes an 8-hour live fire class just to own the gun you already own legally. And if you don't, there are criminal penalties. They talk about SB 948 is full of unintended, quote unquote, consequences.
This is going to be a huge problem. I will tell you, there's a large volume of people already that come to the state that don't even realize that they have to report to the state and register. That's already an issue. And this is what layer of consequences is going to add. it's going to be a significant thing for the volume of people moving to California.
And I don't see this in the text of the Second Amendment. I don't see a history of this, and there certainly is no tradition of this. And I want to make clear, all three of us, every one of us probably listening, highly encourages training.
Absolutely.
And education.
Absolutely.
This isn't about the value or lack of value of training and education or taking a class. This is all about process, procedure, and just setting yet another bear trap for gun owners in California. I think that's the important point to make. Look, conceptually, this is not a reasonable thing to ask of gun owners.
Yes. No, it's crazy. So one of the biggest things, like, some people listening, I think if you are not super pro Second Amendment, you might hear this concept in the way that they're going to try to sell this bill as like, let's make sure that gun owners have the training they need to be safe in our communities. Like that's what they're going to be pushing. The argument is, at least my argument is, there's not a big problem already with folks going out and getting an FSC and purchasing a firearm in California and then being so poorly trained that they're shooting the wrong people in self-defense, or that they're, making gross negligent errors with their firearms. That's not a huge problem. That's a very, very tiny percentage of all firearm related problems that we have in this country. We got plenty of problems, right? We've got people, we've got felons using guns, we've got violence happening. Like there's plenty of problems out there, but this is not one of them. So for us to be solving a problem that probably accounts for like 0.1% of the total issues that we see in this state with firearms is putting the blame on those of us trying to be law-abiding, trying to follow the rules, and potentially giving us criminal penalties for not being super up-to-date on the latest, craziest law in California. This changes so much even for folks who are moving from out of state. It's changing things for people who haven't purchased a firearm yet, but maybe go and take a class. They go to a range, they get a private lesson, a one-on-one, and then they go to buy a gun and they find out that private lesson they already paid for is not worth enough to the state to give them the right to purchase a firearm in the state of California. So folks are going to be spending their budget on training and then finding out that, that doesn't even count. I need this special 8-hour class that's taught by a special instructor, not just an NRA instructor or USCCA instructor or any other, agency instructor, post instructor. It has to be a DOJ approved instructor, which is a separate process. You have to have extra credentials. You have to do an application process. You have to pay the state money. There's not a ton of those instructors out there. There's way less of those instructors than there are just normal firearms instructors who have taken some classes and gotten insurance and gotten credentials and work at a range. So it's going to greatly diminish the amount of instructors that are even eligible to teach this kind of class. On top of the fact that not everyone has access to live fire near them. Yeah. You may live in a rural community where your nearest range or your nearest DOJ certified instructor is an 1.5-hour drive away. That's not fair. That's not reasonable. You may have somebody who is already nervous about waiting 10 days to pick up their gun, but now they have to find time in their schedule for an 8-hour in-person class and childcare and transportation and the budget for it. This is going to greatly impact those who are most vulnerable in our communities, those who have the least amount of disposable income. And it's not really gonna hurt the folks who have plenty of money and can hire a babysitter and have a car. So this is, again, a law that is supposedly making us safer, disproportionately impacting those of us who need the protection the most.
There you go. California doing what California does best, using public policy not to solve problems, but to create them. So, all right, what can you do? Now you know about it. What can you do? Well, go to sdcgo.org/take action. So that's sdcgo.org/take action. And if you click on the button about SB 948, you'll be able to send a letter to your legislator saying that you fully oppose this thing. So check it out. It's got some good information up on there so you can read a little bit more about it. Although if you just listen to what we said, we covered it really well. Dakota just went over it really, really well. But now it's time to, at the very least, do this take action, one click, let my legislators know that this is not good. So, and look for the future. I'm actually talking to some local political leaders who want to make noise about this. So you might see a little bit more in the future on that. But for the meantime, right now, what we need you to do, sdcgo.org/takeaction.